Good day, guys. Welcome to another course on Forex trading. Today, we're going to be talking about supply and demand. And if you're already in this chapter, I will assume that you have already went through the basics and you now understand all the basics um, regarding Forex trading. Okay, let's jump into it. I want to answer two questions for you guys. What is supply and demand, and how do you actually identify the areas or the points of supply and demand in the Forex chart? So when we're talking about supply and demand, we're talking about let's first start with the term supply. The term supply refers to the amount of sellers that are actually available to sell a certain currency pair on the Forex chart. You understand? The term demand refers to the people that are available to actually buy that certain currency pair on a Forex chart. You understand? So when we're talking about supply and demand, we're talking about the availability of both of these two parties. And we can actually use a Forex chart to identify where these people will be sitting, and so we can be able to actually trade as other people are trading. That's basically going to depend on the type of style you are using in terms of trading. So let's make an example here. As you can see on the screen here, we have a zone. This is our supply zone. As you can see, it's marked by red, and this is our demand zone. Now, if you're looking at something here, it's more like support and resistance, but not entirely. But the whole concept relies on the strategy of support and resistance. But the only difference is that instead of marking this area with one line, we actually use a box to mark an entire section filled with sellers and buyers. So if you're looking at the demand zone here, as you can see, price has been bouncing off this area here. It has also been bouncing off this whole area here and this area here. So we know every time when price comes to this area, price is most likely to go up. So buyers are actually sitting in this zone. So we call this our demand zone. And the opposite is valid on the top section here. There are a lot of sellers sitting here because you can see price is bouncing off all the time, and every time it reaches this point, it bounces down. So this is our supply zone. So this is how we actually identify our supply and demand zone. These areas, like all the other strategies, are not actually guaranteed that they will hold for a longer period of time, but more times than not, these areas would hold. As you can see here, down in this area here, price has actually broken this zone. That's actually the nature of Forex trading. Not everything is going to go as you expect, but at least using graphical representation will actually help you identify these areas in the market. So let's jump into a real chart and basically identify these areas on real time. Okay, cool, guys. Let's look at this chart and basically identify our supply and demand zones. So when you're looking for these zones, first of all, you look for your resistance. As you can see, we can see the price has been resisting in this area and this area, and it's also been resisting on these areas on the left side here. So the one thing we do is we pick a box and we mark off this area here. So we know this entire zone here is our supply zone. So we expect price to bounce back and go down when it reaches this area. This is the highest point of this zone. Let's just move this right on top of that wick up there. So we actually identifying this area based on these two candles here. As you can see, this is most likely to be the highest point at which price can go, and we're expecting price to go back down when it reaches this area. So now we go down and look for the demand zone. So where are all these buyers sitting in the market? So again, we look for support and resistance areas where price has been supporting. So if you can see here at the bottom, we can see that price has been supported 3 times in this area. So we mark that part off just like that. we have found our demand area. So one thing we know is that if price comes back down to this area, we expect it to go back up again. There are some other areas that we can also take into account. We can also take into account this area here, because we can see that price has actually been holding right here, right in this area here. We can see that price has actually been maintaining its structure in this area. So yeah, let's just say that is our demand area. So this can either be a demand area, or it can be a supply area or resistance, because if price is coming from this direction like it did here, it can bounce off here and push price back down. So this here would be our supply zone. So if this zone is broken, as you can see here, price actually went through the zone and came back to retest. So this is actually now turned from supply to a now demand zone. So it has turned from resistance to a support. So now what we expect is for price to go back up to this area again. Of course, we do have some other areas that are also, I wouldn't say these are supply and demand zones, but on my opinion, they aren't. They're just support and resistance. But you need to take into account every area in the chart that has a potential of actually stalling price or fighting with price in one way or another. So this will also be another level or another zone that we could draw here when we're talking about supply and demand. If we wanted to, we could also draw another one here, right there. But it would be counterproductive to draw this many supply zones. But it depends on the type of trading strategy you will be using. Obviously, these zones will be violated at some point or another. But yeah, I'm just basically showing you how to basically identify supply and demand zones in your chart. So these would actually be valid if we actually drop down our time frame and probably went to let's say a 1 hour time frame. If we went to a 1 hour time frame, we would see the gap between these areas, that the gaps are actually now significant, and we can actually use those zones in accordance with the lower time frame charts. So that's basically how we mark off our supply and demand zone, and that's basically how we identify where the buyers and the sellers are actually sitting in the forex market. Yeah, that's it for today, guys. I'll see you in the next chapter when we're talking about market structure.